very terrible situation if that indeed is the case, because I'm sure there were people up there in that World Trade Center. Now we have lost again. Our transmitter is on top of the World Trade Center, so we apparently have consequently lost contact with Dick Oliver. But we are on the phone with an eyewitness. Rosa, can you hear me? Is Rosa there?
Hello?
Rosa?
Yes.
This is Jim Ryan here in the studio.
Hi.
What is your last name, please?
Cardona Rivera.
Oh, Cardona. Rosa Cardona Rivera. Tell us what you saw and heard, if you would, please.
Okay, I'm at 99 Hudson Street. I was standing outside, actually, at the side of the building smoking a cigarette. And I hear a plane, and I don't usually see planes in this area. Then all of a sudden I saw it go right into the World Trade Center. To the building.
So
right
you saw a plane crash into the side of the World Trade Center?
Yes, sir.
And
I'm like on the 14th floor, so I was just like looking out, you know, because there's like a fire, something like fire staircase or something, you know, just like a little balcony. And I saw it go right into the building, and I was like, oh my God, you know. And it was a big plane. It wasn't, you know, a little plane. It was fairly big.
How big, can you tell us? Give us an idea.
I don't know. I would say it was like a plane that I board on to go, you know, wow.
So this wasn't just a small Piper Cub or something that had gone the wrong way, and of course, we would, the weather, I take it, where you are is just about picture perfect.
Picture perfect, yes. It's very clear outside.
So there would be the suspicion then that anybody who would drive a plane smack into the middle of the World Trade Center would have done it on purpose.
It would seem that either that or they lost control, but I can't see something like that. I mean, it was like right into the building, so, you know, and it was coming low. You know, because if I were to see a plane that was going high, and all right, but this was coming low, very visible.
Can you see the streets below the World Trade Center?
No, I cannot, because I'm on Hudson Street.
You're on Hudson?
Yeah, I'm on Hudson Street in Franklin. So
now you say you were out there grabbing a smoke when it happened?
Right.
What did the other people do when they heard the noise?
Well, there was nobody. I'm up on the 14th floor.
Oh, you were on the 14th floor.
Yeah,
I see.
So I'm not street level. I was up on the 14th floor, and I was just like looking out, you know, just watching the scenery, and when I saw the plane.
All right, Rosa, thank you very much. Talking with eyewitness Rosa Cardona Rivera on the 14th floor of a building very close to the World Trade Center in Lower Manhattan. And once again, Dick Oliver was on the scene down at City Hall reporting to us. However, our transmitter is located on top of the World Trade Center building, so that apparently caused our picture from that remote to just go out on us. But once again, yes?
I was just saying, I can imagine what the people there must be going through, given what happened there a decade ago.
Yes, Dave?
Well, a couple of things. Number one, if it indeed was a plane, the FAA or the control towers at one of the three major airports should have record of what's in the area. Sometimes they do vector planes around the southern tip of Manhattan. We might want to get a hold of Nick Gregory, who's a certified pilot and, again, flies through the area pretty regularly. Number two, even though planes typically are not that close to these buildings, with the possibility of anything from engine failure to hydraulic failure, you lose control of your ability to control aircraft. You can see right now probably police helicopters hovering right around the towers, but again, wind speeds at this point not tremendous at all. Flying conditions near perfect.
And of course, they would have to, under ordinary circumstances, have filed some sort of a flight plan. If it were a plane that, and it apparently, according to the lady we spoke to, eyewitness just a few moments ago, she did see a plane go in there. Now, I'm told that it may be a twin-engine plane that simply smashed. It looks like it went head-on, smack into the World Trade Center building. One could only expect, given the weather conditions, given looking at that picture live right there, that it went smack inside the World Trade Center. And if that is the case, I'm afraid we've got a tragedy on our hands.
We've got something coming across the wire here, James, but actually it's nothing more than what you've already been reporting. Witnesses report hearing a huge explosion.
Yeah, well, we're looking at, there's no doubt there was a huge explosion and fire, lots of black smoke coming from that building. Black smoke, again, would indicate that the fire is nowhere near under control. I expect they have sprinkler systems in there.
Oh.
Jim?
1 second, Dave. I'm told we have a witness named Jim on the phone, an eyewitness. Jim, are you there?
Yes.
Jim, what's your last name, Jim?
Last name's Friedel.
Jim, tell us what you saw, if you would.
Well, I was looking out the window, and normally you'll see planes kind of flying low over the Hudson, but this was a large plane. It's something like a 727, and it was banking, and the only reason I kind of looked at it is because I thought it was rather low. Banking very hard, and then it just drove right through the World Trade Center tower.
What's your vantage point there, Jim?
I'm actually across the Hudson in Hoboken, but I have a clear view right at the World Trade Towers.
Now, it did seem to you that it was done on purpose?
You know, I don't know if I can say that, but it was a very odd type of turn. It was headed directly at the building. So whether that was on purpose or not, I can't tell. I don't know if he was trying to avoid or they were headed for it.
Describe that turn for us, would you? Was it particularly heavily banked?
It was pretty heavily banked, maybe 45 degrees. Again, hard to tell. It was kind of unremarkable because you do see planes fly through here. It was a large plane, like a 727, and that's the only reason I kept looking, and then it went right into the building. I just thought it was going to follow the river and keep on going, but it didn't.
Now, after the plane struck the building, from your vantage point, it apparently went directly inside.
That's correct.
And if that's the case, my goodness.
Yeah, actually, as the impact occurred, you could see debris flying out the other side.
So it apparently went right through the... we're looking at a live picture of the building right now, Jim, and what would you say that would be, about the 90th floor or so?
Yeah, I can't tell if it went right through, but certainly debris was shot out the other side of the building.
Did you hear anything when it took place? Did you hear the crash?
Yes, I did. In terms of anything beforehand, though, no. I mean, I couldn't tell if the plane was in distress or anything like that, but certainly when it hit, there was a large explosion, and again, you had smoke and debris coming out the other side as well.
All right, Jim, thank you very much. I've been talking to Jim Friedel, eyewitness who witnessed the crash from Hoboken. Thank you, Jim, very much for giving us what you saw and heard. Again, just a few minutes ago, apparently a large plane, according to that vantage point from Hoboken, that as you look at the picture from our chopper now arriving at the scene, Jim Friedel in Hoboken said it appeared to bank sharply and smash directly, perhaps purposefully, into... Oh, my goodness.
Oh, God.
There's another one. Oh, my goodness, there's another one.
This seems to be on purpose.
Oh, my goodness.
Another plane?
Now it's obvious, I think, that there's a second plane just crashed into the World Trade Center. I think we have a terrorist act of proportions that we cannot begin to imagine at this juncture.
Oh, my God.
My goodness. A second plane now has crashed into the other tower of the World Trade Center. Obviously, suicide, terrorist attack on the World Trade Center. What we have been fearing.
Chopper 5. Anybody on?
What we have been fearing for the longest time here apparently has come to pass. A disastrous terrorist attack on the World Trade Center. Both towers, planes smashing into each one. I understand we've reestablished contact with Dick Oliver. Dick is on the phone.
Jim.
Yeah, Dick.
Jim, yes, just moments ago, as you know, another vehicle, some kind of an aircraft, crashed into the World Trade Center. This is no accident. This is no bomb from inside. This is, as you put it, a terrorist attack. There's no two ways about it.
Dick, what vantage point are you at now?
We're still at Park Row. People are streaming down, heading away from the World Trade Center. Having heard the second blast, People are running, some of them running now. Emergency vehicles still heading towards the World Trade Center. Now, thick black smoke. I don't know if you've got a picture. We're trying to take some pictures here for you. Black smoke coming out of the second explosion. The first explosion seems to have calmed down somewhat.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes, there's gray smoke coming out of there, meaning that the water is being put on it. People continue to stream past us here on Park Row, as well as emergency vehicles. There's an ambulance, there's a fire vehicle, and a police vehicle.
My goodness, Ollie, if I can only begin to imagine the carnage that has taken place. We see an ember falling from the top of the floor of the Empire State Building. It's tough to look at, but let's look at it once again. After a plane crashed into the side of the World Trade Center, then another one, as our cameras were focused on the building, crashed into the other tower.
Jim, is now a very serious fire on the South Tower of the World Trade Center. This is about, I would estimate, about the 60th or perhaps the 70th floor of the tower, right on the corner, the northeast corner of the South Tower, flames shooting out of the building. We have absolutely no reports of who was in there, but you've got to believe it being around the 9 o'clock hour that people were just sitting down for a day's work in those buildings.
Dave?
Jim, I was just thinking that if I'm not mistaken, remember several years ago, Mayor Giuliani moved the emergency management office to one of the higher, to the 30th floor or around that area of one of the towers of the World Trade Center, and that's indeed the brain of all the emergency management activity. And now,
I believe, though, that's in one of the other towers. Ollie, can you talk to that? Ollie, can you hear me?
I hear you, Jim.
Dave brought up the point that the mayor's emergency management office, the so-called bunker, is in one of the towers of the World Trade Center, but I don't believe it's one of the two top ones.
No, it's not. It's about the 30th floor. It is not up there. And by the way, for those who are wondering about the structure itself, both towers appear to be structurally sound, and not only small pieces of debris are circulating in the air around where the explosions occurred. The buildings themselves seem to be intact as far as their structure is concerned. There have been talk over the years about the threat of terrorism making the buildings fall down onto the streets. But I can reassure everybody that they seem to be holding up fairly well while efforts are going forward to fight the fires and whatever happened in those two towers.
Now we can see smoke emanating from many of the floors of the two towers. We see to the left of your picture there, smoke coming out of the floors above where the plane crashed into. I believe that's the North Tower that we're looking at there.
Thousands of people gathered where I am here at City Hall Park, in front of City Hall, just watching what's going on. It's very difficult they come by and they say, what happened? And you just got to say something hit the building, and then something hit both buildings.
Well, we saw clearly, we didn't see the first one, but we saw clearly that a plane deliberately crashed into one of the upper floors of the World Trade Center. That was the second plane. So two planes crashed into the upper floors of each of the World Trade Center towers. And I understand now that Port Authority headquarters are in one of those buildings somewhere near that location.
Jim, I
yes?
don't know whether we've confirmed that this was an aircraft, or to be more specific, some people said they thought they saw a missile. I don't know how people could differentiate, but we might keep open the possibility that this was a missile attack on these buildings.
Ollie, I must say that we have an eyewitness who said it was a large plane that crashed first. And then as we were watching the live picture here in the studio, we saw a plane crash into the other tower of the World Trade Center. And again, let's just to be sure, there it is. There it is. The plane went right through the other tower of the World Trade Center.
That is a very hard thing to watch.
And clearly untold carnage must be the result of those suicide terrorist activities.
That was a large commercial
plane.
jet.
The gentleman, Jim Friedel, the gentleman from Hoboken who was watching, said the first one looked to him like a 727.
Well, look at the wingspan, the swath it cut through the towers.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of speculation, no doubt. And for years, we have been talking about security from terrorists here in this major city. It makes you wonder how, if it indeed were two planes, we did see one, how did they manage to get into the area and to
You
just
wonder,
hit the plane like that?
these are all
They
the
hit
things that
buildings.
we're going to have to be, that are going to have to be answered. How could two large planes just that quickly get out of control from our local government?
Presumably commercial aircraft. Now, we can't speak to the first one, but that second aircraft that went through looked like a large twin-engine or three-engine jet. Those are simply not around for private aviation.
Yeah, that's not your Piper Cub.
No, it is not.
That's obviously designed to do considerable damage to those buildings on this day when we're holding a primary election in New York City.
Now, I would imagine...
Ollie?
Jim, what you're saying could be a drone aircraft. That's an aircraft that's guided electronically to its target without having a pilot. Now, that is a possibility as well. In the meantime, I can tell you that planes are shooting out of both towers now. The heaviest being on the south tower, the northeast corner of the south tower of the World Trade Center, but there's a considerable blaze going on the north tower as well.
Yeah, I wonder if there's any way of finding out exactly what is located on those upper floors. You'd like to just cross your fingers and pray to God that maybe there weren't a lot of people up there at
State
that
office
time.
buildings and, of course, lots of commercial office buildings on those spaces as well. I know during the last terrorist attack on the World Trade Center, my son was in the building, and he told stories of groping down through the staircases for some 50 floors before he, thank God, got out safely.
In fact, the governor has an office in the World Trade Center as well. There is one thing. After the bombing of the World Trade Center in the 90s, I do know that there were major efforts to have disaster drills, to have a preparedness plan in the event of an awful tragedy like this. But one has to wonder how, with two gigantic skyscrapers burning, the fire department and emergency services can handle both in that confined space without a tremendous
no
death
matter
toll.
how much you set in place, how much you try to prepare for, until it actually happens, it's just not the same thing.
Again, you're looking at a live picture of the World Trade Center, where shortly before 9 o'clock this morning, and then shortly after 9 o'clock, planes apparently deliberately crashed into the buildings. Alani DeVito, are you there? Alani DeVito, are you there? I understand we have another eyewitness to this catastrophe. Lonnie DeVito, are you there? Apparently we lost Lonnie, but again...
This may be confusing to some people because in a sense it is a little confusing to me. We every now and then see what looks like, I don't know if it's the bottom of a chopper that is swinging back and forth.
That would be our...
That is ours.
That would be the rudders from our chopper every once in a while.
Hey, Jim.
Lonnie DeVito, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Lonnie. Thank you.
Hi.
This is Jim Ryan in the studio. Can you tell us what you heard and saw when the blast took place?
Right now, I was actually talking to my brother on the phone about what happened. I was on my roof and I saw something from where I am. I really can't see what it is. I saw something go into the other building because from where I am, I could see the World Trade Center. I run downstairs and I see on the news that it looks like another fighter jet is what it looks like. And from my house, I could see all the smoke that's into Diker Heights. I could see all of that. It's ridiculous. I can't believe all of this is happening, honestly.
You say you're in Diker Heights,
Yes.
Lonnie?
Yes.
Okay. And could you hear the blast from where you were?
No, I couldn't hear the blast, but I saw something, and it didn't look pretty. Exactly how I can't explain it in any other way. I'm in shock right now.
All right, Lonnie. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. So obviously visible but not audible from way out in Diker Heights.
Hey, Jim?
Yes, Ollie.
They appear to be getting water on this fire. If you can see the South Tower, the black smoke is getting progressively lighter. This indicates steam, which indicates that fire authorities are getting water on the flames. In the meantime, flames are still spitting out from both towers. Now, while the whatever hit the building crashed on the north side of the North Tower, we see flames coming out of the east side.
What's up? Hey Wanda, there's a 5-mile restriction. We can't get closer than 5 miles. We're going to do the best we can do. Yes, we are, Michael and Lisa. We have been forced to stay about 5 miles away from the World Trade Center. A flight restriction has been put in place, but right now we are looking at live pictures. The tower on the left, that is tower number 1, and we can tell you that we can still see the flames and smoke coming out of that, as well as the tower to the right. That is tower number 2. You can see the damage to that about the middle of the building. Just incredible what we are witnessing here from about 5 miles away from the World Trade Center. We did not have that as of yet, Michael. Unfortunately, we were unable to see that video. My pilot, Ed Baker, is right now talking with air traffic control. We're trying to determine what exactly happened here, what type of plane, to be exact, was involved here, as well as the carrier involved. Unfortunately, at this point, Michael, it'd be very difficult to make that activity from the ground. Right now, you're looking at a shot of lower Manhattan, and unfortunately, we can't determine what has happened on the ground, what type of damage has been done to the other buildings surrounding the World Trade Center. Yeah, go Tim. Yes. Hey, if you want to, keep your mic handy. I might, okay. Yeah, I can do a little bit. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I can do a little bit. I'll bring my pilot in as well.
Test 1 2.
Do it again, Ed.
Test test test. Test 1 2. 1 2 3 4 5 5 4 3 2 1. It'll take them a little while to figure that out.
Hey, Ed, do one more test for me.
Test 1 2 3 4 5 5 4 3 2 1.
Yes, I am, Michael. Yeah, Michael, first off, we can tell you that it was the south side of the World Trade Centers that were struck, just to give you some perspective. Those are the sides that face out towards New York Bay. Now, I have my pilot, Ed Baker, here with me as well to talk about what may have happened. Now, traffic flying through the area does not necessarily need to talk to the airports. However, it is most likely that they would have been in contact with the airport. That's if they were even contacting the airports at all. I'll ask, first off, Eddie, given the winds today, would this be a plane that would be approaching, taking off or leaving from either LaGuardia or Kennedy Airport?
This could very well have been a plane on approach to LaGuardia Airport. With the winds at this angle, they would probably be, if he was on the expressway, a visual approach to runway 21. Normally they bring him in over where the Mazda tanks were, and then bring him on a downwind along the LIE and base to flying runway 21. So it would be normal.
All right, so obviously we're having a little trouble with Eddie's microphone, but given the flight pattern at this time, any planes landing at LaGuardia Airport would be coming over Queens and not over the Hudson River. Lisa, Michael, back to you. Yeah, Tim. Right now we can't. There's a 5-mile restriction. I don't believe so, but if you tell me when we're clear, I'll pull out. Not much, Tim.
Ed, what's our azimuth? Need our azimuth. Oh, what's up, Ed? Gotcha.
Here, from Kai Simonson. I'll try once again. We've had communications difficulties. I'll say once again because our part of our communications setup is on the top of that World Trade Center building, and that was knocked out shortly after the first plane crashed into the first building. But Kai, can you hear me at all? Obviously, Kai having some communications problems.
Here.
Yes, Ollie?
I must tell you that small pieces, well, they look small from here, but they're probably much larger than I believe, are falling from the scene of the site of the two. There goes a piece. So the authorities are clearing the area around. We still have pieces of debris coming down. Not a lot, but every now and every few moments, another piece of debris, looks like aluminum siding, comes lying down from the scene of the two fires.
Boy, again, the tower on the right of your screen seems to be fire seems to be dying down a little bit, but the fire to the left of your screen still heavy, thick black smoke spewing out. We're just told now, we received words that the Lincoln Tunnel and the Holland Tunnel are both closed. So, just as an aftermath of this terrorist act, terrible terrorist act, the ones I suppose we feared for the longest time, there is no service in or out of any of the airports. The Lincoln and the Holland tunnels are both closed. There is no subway service at all through downtown Manhattan. The 1, 2, 3, 9, N, or any plane that goes near, any train rather, that goes near the World Trade Center has been discontinued. That as a result of what you see right there. Planes, 2 of them, one just minutes apart, one into one tower of the World Trade Center, the other into the other tower, causing devastation on the top floors of those buildings.
It wouldn't surprise me, Jim, even though right now we just have a tentative shutdown of the subway system, if indeed the mayor or authorities shut down transit, just given the fact that there may be threats or a potential problem securing all of the major thoroughfares and tunnels throughout the city, simply out of precaution. I would imagine that they might consider doing that over the next short term.
If there were 2, there may be more. And you couldn't be too careful at this point. I understand we have another eyewitness to the catastrophe. Shaniqua, are you there?
Yes.
Shaniqua, can you tell me what you saw and heard, please?
Okay, my grandmother's friend, she came upstairs and told us that they was bombing the Twin Towers. So me and my grandfather, we looked out the window and we actually saw the airplane crash into the second tower.
Vivikwa, could you do me a favor, please? Could you turn your television, set the sound down?
Okay.
Maybe we're having trouble hearing you. Perhaps that's the cause.
Is that good enough?
Tell us again, if you would. I'm not sure we quite hear you well enough.
Okay, my grandmother's friend, she came upstairs and she was telling us how they was bombing the tower. So me and my grandfather, we started to look out the window, and we actually saw the second plane crash into the second tower. We thought it was the airplane, but we not, you know, because we wasn't too actually sure what type of airplane it was, but we know it was the airplane. And we heard the explosion and saw the fire.
Right. All right, we're having trouble communicating with Vivikwa Cohen, an eyewitness, but again, FBI in Washington is reporting that they have had reports of planes hijacked before the crashes took place. So one would suspect, one would believe that the FBI was was investigating hijacked planes when those planes were diverted smack into the World Trade Center, both towers. I'm told also that Mayor Giuliani is preparing to hold a news conference about the disaster, As soon as that happens, of course, we will bring it to you live. Dave?
We might imagine, given that it's primary day, that the governor himself may also be in New York City on this date, given the importance of the day municipally.
You know, if he isn't, I'm sure he's on his way.
One would hope that
absolutely.
that he's not anywhere near that World Trade Center office. Ollie, anything new from your vantage point?
No, Jim, except that emergency vehicles are finding it difficult to get through, not only because of the crowds, but because of the pileup of emergency vehicles. As you know, we're at the south end of City Hall Park, and everything is pretty much frozen here, even though I have not seen ambulances come out of the scene. I have seen them go in. Hopefully that's a sign that there are not too many casualties as a result of this.
Thank you, Ollie.
Jim, do we have word, have they evacuated other landmark buildings like the Empire State Building, the Statue of Liberty, et cetera? Do we know?
We have no word on that yet.
It just gives you such a horrible feeling that the city is under siege, which may not be true. This is enough with the World Trade Center, but it gives you such a helpless feeling.
Oh, yeah, there's not much you can do at this point.
You also wonder if this is indeed a hijacking, if these planes were taken over, if the people who took over these planes actually were trained pilots and did the flying into these buildings themselves, or again forced these pilots to head on in.
That it would be an unusual pilot who would do that.
Exactly.
But I'm told we have another eyewitness, Tom O'Hara, on the phone. Tom, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Can you tell me what you heard and saw, please?
Actually, we were in our office building on 36th Street, and I went up to the penthouse where you have a straight downtown view. We saw the northwest tower on fire, and we saw either a slow-moving airplane go down, wrap around the tower, and then slam into the south tower in a ball of flames.
And could, from 36th Street, could you hear what was going on?
I couldn't hear, but we had a straight-on shot completely downtown of all of the goings-on the two buildings.
All right, Tom, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So from 36th Street, looking across the tops of buildings, you can see it very clearly. We're told now that, in response to your point, Dave, that the city has shut down every place in and out of Manhattan. All the bridges, all the tunnels are closed. And again, all three airports are closed. So as a result of this double-barreled terrorist attack on the World Trade Center, the city has shut down the Holland Tunnel, the Lincoln Tunnel, the George Washington Bridge. Every way in and out of Manhattan is closed. And I presume that would be from, I'm sorry, and the East River crossings as well.
We are also told that the phone service in the building, we are having a problem with the phone service. The phones don't work. Joey was saying the cell phones, you can't get out on the cell phones,
cell phones
as
are
well.
out.
Yes.
This would be a good time to say, by the way, for those who are using the emergency services number 911 to somehow call and check on relatives or friends, this is the time, most importantly, when that line needs to be kept open for the true emergencies which are taking place in other parts of the city and indeed down on the southern tip of Manhattan at this hour.
Good thought. Again, all this as a consequence of what you see right there. Recapping for you shortly before 9 o'clock and then shortly before after 9 o'clock, a plane apparently deliberately crashed into the upper floors of first one tower of the World Trade Center, then, as we were watching in horror, another tower of the World Trade Center. There you see the aftermath. And we have reports right now that the President of the United States, of course, this terrorist act not directed on us specifically here in New York City, but at the country. We are told that the President of the United States is preparing to go before the nation and comment on this disaster. You look the right side of your screen, the first tower of the World Trade Center seems slightly less engulfed in flames than the one on the left. That because that smoke seems to be much darker, indicating that the fire would be much more active. And I'm told that we have another eyewitness. Dan Lee, are you there?
I am.
Dan, can you tell me what you heard and saw?
Yes, I was crossing 6th Avenue at West 4th Street, and there was a terrific noise overhead of a jet crossing over, which I noticed because first of all, it was incredibly irritating that it was that loud directly over Manhattan. And as I'm watching this jet, thinking, why is it so low, I see that it's heading right for the Trade Center. And sure enough, it hit the World Trade Center and completely disappeared into the building. I saw no debris falling, really. It just vanished right into the building.
Were there many people around you when it happened, Dan?
There were several people in the crosswalk at 6th Avenue and West 4th, yes.
What was their reaction?
We all just froze and stood in the middle of the street in disbelief watching, and traffic stopped because we were in the way. And we just stood there for quite some time in complete disbelief of what we had just seen.
Where were you when the second blast took place?
I had managed at that point to walk the half block home, and I was watching the coverage on television, and that's when I saw the live picture of the second blast.
All right, Dan, thank you very much for giving us your thoughts. Here now, the President of the United States on this disaster.
Terrorist attack on our country. I have spoken to the Vice President, to the Governor of New York, to the Director of the FBI, and have ordered that the full resources of the federal government go to help the victims and their families, and to conduct a full-scale investigation to hunt down and to find those folks who committed this act. Terrorism against our nation will not stand. And now, if you join me in a moment of silence. May God bless the victims, their families, and America. Thank you very much.
All right, the President, before a moment of silence for the victims of this terrorist act, telling the nation that the full resources of the government would be brought to bear on helping the victims and on finding out who precisely is responsible for this terrible, terrible attack on our country. Right there you see the aftermath, the World Trade Center towers, smoke billowing out of the upper floors, all those floors, I'm sure, fully occupied. The rescue attempts going forward as much as is possible, given the high floors of the tallest buildings in Manhattan, and given the number of people there. Dave?
Jim, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you may be able to provide some historical perspective. How long have the Twin Towers been up? And once again, the floor height, the number of floors, I think is
off the top of my head, somewhere in the 60s, as I recall, and it goes up, what, 102 floors or so, up to the Windows on the World restaurant there.
And if we remember from the last bombing, it took months and months and months before that structure was certified sound again and re-inhabited by...
in from the bottom.
Right, that was a bombing from the parking garage level of the tower.
That is something that, it's hard to watch this, but it's more bearable because I remember that particular bombing, and I was on the air all morning and all afternoon with that one, is that you saw the people that were being brought out on stretchers. You actually saw bodies and victims. And this, we're not seeing that yet, and we're hoping and praying that there are very, very few injuries. But just looking at this, it just, as you say, Jim, the carnage is just...
What we're looking at is just the long picture.
It would appear, Jim, as if there's more smoke coming from the ground.
And when we just have another, yes, things have fallen to the ground and are burning. And we have another announcement now that you might have expected, and that is the Empire State Building is being evacuated. You're making the point, Lynn, that we are only seeing the long picture, if you will. We are not able to see, perhaps thankfully, inside those buildings and see what kind of devastation has been caused. We're told we have a pilot on the line, Richard Kornacek. Are you there, Richard?
Yes, I am.
Richard, were you up in the air when this took place?
No, I wasn't, but...
appears to have moved from New York to Washington as a plane hit the Pentagon at 9:35, and then the State Department, a car bomb exploded.
We're about to see it here, Jim. The second tower just completely collapses on itself. And we don't know what caused the collapse, but it appears that just structural damage from all that fire, although we do not know whether there was some sort of timed explosion, but it does appear that all that fire...
And in the end, it doesn't much matter. The core was damaged. We know that from talking to witnesses earlier, right. People who were in the building. We do know the core of both buildings were damaged. The cores were damaged. And apparently the building just couldn't withstand the mass of the explosion.
This is so surreal, ladies and gentlemen. We are sitting here watching this with you, and really we're trying to talk, but words cannot describe what we're seeing.
We should point out, Bill, that we don't know how...
Here comes the second tower again from the ground floor. This is from our Michelle Charlesworth vantage point.
The north side.
She was on the West Side Highway when her crew shot this, and this is, you see it just imploding. Bill, I think it is important to point out that we don't know how far the evacuation had come to this point, but we do know that we have talked to people on the ground who were at least on the 56th floor. We know that there were people high enough up in that building so that they...
45 minutes before the evacuation. I mean
before the buildings came down, absolutely. Right. And so it's fair to say that hundreds and hundreds of people got out of that building without being terribly hurt. We know there will be casualties. We just don't want to make it worse than it is, because some people were clearly able to get out of that building.
Right.
Before they came down, there was a lot of time to evacuate. Remember in the World Trade Center, the original explosion there, people got out of there very quickly. Remember the pictures from that? They got out of there very quickly in a very well-organized way. We can hope and pray that the evacuation was well underway at this point as well.
Good point, Jim. We do not know. Control room, if I can ask you, when you hear of any information about injuries or fatalities, we would like to pass that on to our viewers. We have reporters on the scene. We have reporters all over Manhattan and Lower Manhattan. We're trying to get signals from them. As you know, if you've tried to use a cell phone, the cell phones appear to be out, and it's very difficult to have communication. It's very difficult. We've lost communication with John Del Giorno, our newscopter 7.
Dave Evans is back here. Of course, he was talking earlier, this being primary day, and the very latest, there were discussions on what could be done.
I just got off the phone with the top officials at the Board of Elections. They have gone ahead and they have canceled the election for today. This is, of course, a primary vote. There was some question as to whether they could go ahead and do this because of what the general election provision is, that you can go ahead and cancel a vote if it's during the...
Dave, I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second. We're seeing a U.S. fighter plane. And Jim, do you know what kind of plane that is?
It's an F-16.
It's an F-16 U.S. fighter plane patrolling the skies of Manhattan. Dave Evans is here explaining that the election has been canceled today,
yes,
the primary election for New York City, for mayor and about 36 other seats. 1,000 candidates on that ballot, and obviously it has been canceled. Mayor Giuliani, David, do we know where he is?
We don't know yet where he is. Of course, the mayor's bunker is what we call it, and that is the emergency center where all of the police and the fire and the emergency officials go. That is on the 23rd floor of the World Trade Center, I believe in the North Tower. So we don't know exactly where, of course, the mayor is right now. We expect there to be a news conference. We've called down to City Hall, and we believe that they will have something out of City Hall here shortly. But that bunker is, of course, gone.
Yes.
All right. Let's go back to Michelle Charlesworth, who is on West Side Highway with the very latest from there. Michelle.
We last came to you about half an hour ago. We're standing on the West Side Highway. The North Tower just came down. Of course, the South Tower of the World Trade Center coming down moments before that. We watched the whole thing come down. Where there used to be the two towers, there's now just plumes of smoke, people running from that area. One of the people who ran away with Cheryl Fiandaca, one of our reporters. Cheryl, tell me what you saw. We're about 30 blocks away from what happened. You were next to the South Tower?
I was right next to the South Tower. It was about 2 blocks away. It was just a small explosion, and then rocks and debris and everything started pouring down. Firefighters, everyone yelling, run, run, people running down the street. Lots of injuries up there, lots of injuries. Lots of firefighters are injured. Many have smoke inhalation problems, but many have serious injuries. There are a lot of bandaged people up there.
Right, obviously we don't know what's in this smoke. Some people speculating who knows what could have been in there. West Side Highway totally shut down. The ambulances coming back, though, are not filled with people.
No, the ambulances are not filled with people. They're treating a lot of people. There's triage going on right up the street here with a lot of the firefighters who are trying to fight this and see if there are any people under the debris. It's a very, very, very scary situation up there, and they're asking everybody to stay away.
As you can see, they're asking people to stay out of this area. We are, 30 blocks from what happened. The South Tower came down first. The North Tower came down second. About an hour and a half ago, I can't believe it was an hour and a half ago, we heard the first report of a plane hitting one of these